loner. The modern loneliness epidemic isn't just about being physically alone. It's about emotional disconnection even when surrounded by people. We're seeing a massive rise in parasocial relationships where people form one-sided emotional bonds with celebrities, streamers, or even artificial intelligence. Technology has given us more ways to connect than ever before, yet somehow we've never been more isolated. And studies show that the average person's social circle has been shrinking for decades. This brings us to Officer K in Bladerunner 2049, played by Ryan Gosling. K is a replicant, an engineered being designed to be compliant and to do a job that even other outcasts wouldn't touch. He hunts down older models of his own kind. He lives in a small apartment in a city of millions, and his existence is defined by solitude. Before we continue, I just wanted to say welcome to the early stages of this channel. I have a lot of ambitions for this page, and no, that doesn't include buying a new mic, but if you'd like to help me stay ahead of the curve and try out new video ideas, consider supporting me with the link in the description. There's a scene early in the film that perfectly captures the essence of the loner. Kay returns home after a difficult day, and his holographic girlfriend, Joy, greets him. On the surface, it's a tender moment between two people who care about each other, but look deeper. Joy isn't a person, she's a product, an artificial being designed and programmed to be the perfect companion. She tells Kay exactly what he wants to hear, because that's literally what she was designed to do. The tragedy of Kay's existence isn't just that he's alone, it's that his only relationship is with something that might not even be real in any meaningful sense. Later in the film, Kay sees a giant advertisement featuring Joy's likeness, and it says the same thing to him that his personal Joy says. The question Hodson, was any of it real, or was he just a consumer buying the illusion of connection? What separates the loner from other types of outcast is this. The loner has either chosen solitude or has forgotten how to connect with others. Kay doesn't seek out human relationships. He's emotionally disconnected even when he's standing right next to someone. Some loners prefer it this way. Others, like Kay, have simply accepted it as their reality. They're not rejected by society in an active sense, they just separated from it, existing in parallel to everyone else, but never quite intersecting. The pariah. To understand the pariah, we need to talk about how society creates monsters. When we neglect people based on their appearance, their background, or their identity, we often trigger a self-fulfilling prophecy. The rejected person becomes bitter or defensive, which reinforces their initial assumptions against them. The pariah is created through fear and sustained through collective rejection. Shrek is the perfect embodiment of this archetype. The film opens with him seemingly perfectly content in his swamp, alone and unbothered. But pay attention to what's really happening. His isolation isn't a preference, it's armor. When he enters the village, people scream and run. They show up at his home with pitchforks and torches, treating him like a monster. He says it himself. They judge him before they even know him. So Shrek leans into it. He plays the scary ogre because if people are going to fear him anyway, he might as well use it to keep them at a distance. It's a defensive mechanism. The aggression, the gross out humor, the deliberate off-putting behavior, all of it is protection against further rejection. But underneath, we see glimpses of someone who actually wants connection. He wants to be understood. He just stopped trying because the pain of repeated rejection became too much. The exile. The third type of outcast operates under a different kind of burden entirely. Around the world there are millions of refugees and displaced people who've been separated from their homes through violence, disaster, or persecution. But exile isn't always physical. In the age of social media, we've seen people get driven out of communities they've once belonged. Sometimes exile is self-imposed, driven by shame, guilt, or trauma to the point that a person feels they can't return. What unites all forms of exile is this: the weight of a past that can't be escaped and a home that feels unreachable. Simba from The Lion King is our guide through this archetype. His exile begins with trauma and manipulation. He witnesses his father's death, and Scar convinces him that it's his fault, that he's responsible for the death of the king. Scar tells him to run away and never return. So Simba flees, carrying the weight of false guilt into a new life far from his home. In the jungle, Simba tries to live by a new philosophy. He attempts to become someone else, to leave behind the prince he was meant to be. But here's the thing about exile. You carry your past with you wherever you go. Simba can't escape who he is. The exile is different from the pariah who is rejected by society, and different from the loner who chooses isolation. The exile is geographically and emotionally separated from where they belong. Simba is later forced to confront everything that he's been running from. He's been living under an assumed identity, avoided his responsibilities, and hid from his trauma. The exile lives with a constant tension between the life they left behind and the life they're trying to build. They're haunted by the question of whether they can truly go home or whether they even deserve to. The drifter. Modern society has created a new kind of outcast, one that's particularly relevant to younger generations. Think about the rise of the gig economy, where people move from job to job without stability. Think about commitment phobia in relationships where people keep things casual to avoid vulnerability. The drifter is someone without roots, either by choice or by necessity. They keep moving because standing still means facing something they're not ready to face. The Mandalorian embodies this archetype perfectly. He lives by code, but that code keeps him perpetually in motion. He's about the outer, which means his relationships are transactional. He takes a job, completes it, and moves on. Every episode of the show follows the same pattern. New planet, new people, new problem, and then he leaves. He never stays anywhere long enough to put down roots. Then there's the armor. The Mandalorian never removes his helmet in front of others. It's a literal barrier between him and human connection, but it's also a metaphor for the emotional walls that drifters build. By never settling, by never letting anyone get too close, the drifter protects himself from the pain of loss or rejection. Self-sufficiency becomes a shield. Everything changes when a child enters his life. He can't just complete the job and move on, because that would mean abandoning a vulnerable being who depends on him. Over the course of the series, we see the drifter learn that detachment isn't weakness. We see him slowly build connections with people. We see him return to places he's been before, something the old Mando would never have done. What separates the drifter from other archetypes is the constant motion. They're self-sufficient and capable, but not rootless. They avoid permanent connections not because they're rejected or exiled, but because staying in one place means confronting emotional needs they'd rather ignore. The road is easier than standing still. The stranger in a strange land. The fifth type of outcast deals with a specific kind of displacement that deserves its own category. We're talking about people who find themselves in an environment completely foreign to everything they've known. This happens to tourists arriving in new countries, or even people moving from rural areas to cities or vice versa, as well as anyone who's crossed a cultural boundary so significant that the rules of their old life no longer apply. The stranger in a strange land isn't just different from those around them. They're operating with a completely different framework for understanding the world. Babar, the King of the Elephants from the 1989 animated series gives us a perfect lens into this experience. In the early episodes, young Babar lives peacefully in the jungle with his mother and the other elephants. Then tragedy strikes. A hunter kills his mother, and Babar flees in terror and grief. He runs until he reaches a human city, a place utterly unlike anything he's ever known. In the city, Babar is surrounded by humans who walk on two legs, wear clothes, live in buildings, and follow social rules he doesn't understand. He's not feared like the pariah or exiled like Simba. He's simply out of place. The humans don't know what to make of him, and he doesn't know how to navigate their world. He tries to adapt, learning to wear clothes, to speak like humans, to following their customs, but there's always a gap between him and everyone else. What makes this archetype particularly potent is the internal conflict. Babar wants to fit in, but adapting to this new world means leaving behind parts of his identity. He's an elephant trying to live as humans do. Every step towards belonging in the city is also a step away from his origins in the jungle. The stranger in a strange land faces constant translation, not just of language, but of values, behaviors, and ways of being. Unlike the misfit, who we'll discuss next, the stranger's incompatibility isn't inherent, it's conceptual. Babar wasn't out of place in the jungle, he's out of place in the human city. Given enough time and support, the stranger can adapt, but they're forever shaped by their dual identity. They become bridges between worlds, never fully belongs to either. Wait, I think we're missing someone. Where's the misfit representative? Is that so? Well, in that case, they'll have to subscribe so they can see them in the next video. Any guesses on who it'll be? Leave a comment down below. Until next time, goodbye.